Hello, everyone. It is Mr. Lynn. Today is day 44 of our quarantine, and I seriously need a haircut. So, today we are diving into the actual Renaissance. In the Renaissance, there's a time of rebirth throughout the entire world, not just Europe. We have records of great explorations happening. It's a time of many inventions and innovations, and the great minds start an intellectual movement that's called humanism by focusing on human life and its accomplishments and less concern with the afterlife. There becomes a fascination with the language and literature and mythology of the ancient Greeks and Romans. In my opinion, the most important aspects of the time period are that the printing press emerges, and therefore learning no longer constricted to the church, and it becomes a status symbol and not just a thing that the higher members of the church would do. Part of this status symbol is being educated as a musician. There becomes this idea of a universal man, and part of that is being a trained musician. It simply would not be proper to not be able to play an instrument and be able to read music. With this, professional musicians boom. For example, we previously would have saw in the papal choir in Rome about 10 singers. Now it's around 25. Previously, the top nobility would have maybe a court musician or two. Now it's common to have 60. And music is regularly composed simply to entertain, and the composers start to not only get greater pay, but also much greater status, and even become the early rock stars. Vocal music is still more prevalent than instrumental music. Word choice, therefore, of the lyrics is particularly important, and they are heavy with meaning and emotion. A popular term when describing vocal music of the Renaissance period is word painting. So perhaps the lyrics are talking about running through a field. The music might have rapid notes to reflect that. Or if the music's talking about rain falling down, the music would be in descending patterns to reflect that. The choral music is still very polyphonic, taking from the organum traditions. Homophonic music, making use of full chords, is used as well, but it's typically used for light music, maybe such as dances. Though accompanying instruments exist and are prevalent, a cappella music is extremely popular. Overall, the music of the Renaissance has a much fuller sound than that of the Middle Ages. There is also a more sharply defined beat, and the rhythms have a greater flow. In the church, the Mass is set up by Michaud and is still prevalent. But something new arises, which is called the motet. A motet is an independent choral piece set to a sacred Latin text. Outside of the sacred, a new vocal style is being composed called the Madrigal. And thanks to the printing press and the idea that everyone should be a musician and know how to read music, they spread across Europe and are still preserved and performed. In fact, when I was in high school, we had a magical choir that specifically worked on these. No, I was not born in the Renaissance. Composers like Thomas Morley crank these things out. There's thousands of them. Intended for one singer per part and are set to short poems. They make use of both polyphonic textures, multiple moving parts, and homophonic textures, similar rhythms but in chords. As they are not associated with the church, they span any number of subjects, from the change in the season to subject matter which I would dare not approach in a school-related video. The dominant instruments of the day are the organ and the lute. Much of the music composed for instruments are intended for dances. While dynamics were not officially created yet, there is a distinction between instruments intended for being played outdoors, such as the early trumpets, and indoors, such as bowed string instruments and recorders. Interestingly, composers didn't usually specify which instrument they wanted. So, so a piece might be written out for 5 parts, and they could be played by string instruments, or recorders, or lutes, or trumpets, or any combination thereof. Now, on to one of my favorites, Gabrieli. Andre Gabrieli was an organist at St. Mark's Cathedral in Venice and composed both sacred and secular vocal music and instrumental music. As was common, he did not specify which instruments he was writing for, but brass ensembles today still love his music. My brass quintet keeps 3 different pieces of his in our music rotation at all times. He evolves the idea of form in his music and is not afraid to move between duple time, such as 2/4 or 4/4, and triple time, such as 6/8. Though some scholars disagree, he is credited with inventing dynamics as well. So I will provide some links to his music and some madrigals and stuff like that in the description down below. Definitely listen to it so you can get a good sense of what the Renaissance period sounds like. In the next video, we're going to move on to the Baroque period.